The 1st of July in the center of Moscow has been blown up. The Ukrainian armed forces are attacking Moscow, the city center and the Moscow region.
We're filming. Here are the fragments. That apartment is on fire. It exploded so loudly, it was terrifying. I just managed to run away in time.
Everything's burning, apartments on fire. A large-scale evacuation is underway. The carpet protocol introduced at Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo airports. Takeoffs and landings prohibited. There's panic and evacuation going on there. The Security Service of Ukraine has launched a new phase of the Special Operation Web. Military equipment and fuel convoys have been blown up, and the Navy has destroyed a Russian Black Sea Fleet boat. It was blown up. Boom! We'll discuss the attacks on the Black Sea Fleet, military airfields, convoys with tanks, fuel and equipment, as well as the explosions in Moscow and the Moscow region with Oleksandr Demchenko right now.
The Ukrainian armed forces are once again attacking Moscow, the city center, and the Moscow region. Drones are crashing into high-rise buildings thanks to Russian electronic warfare, of course. There's a fire there, apartments are burning, people are screaming, and a large-scale evacuation is underway. At Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo airports, the carpet plan has been implemented. Takeoffs and landings are prohibited. There's already a massive collapse at passport control in Vnukovo. There are huge crowds of passengers there. Everyone is sobbing and crying because no one can depart. People are arguing, almost fighting, according to Russian social media channels. The main intelligence directorate blew up trains carrying fuel and military equipment, and the Navy destroyed a boat belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Ukrainian forces struck a boat off the western coast of Kherson, an attack on the Atlas oil depot. For the first time in a very long while, we are attacking an oil refinery. We'll discuss the new special operations by the armed forces, the main intelligence directorate, and the Security Service of Ukraine with top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko right now. Sasha, welcome.
Hello, Dasha. What about the planes? What about, tell me, airfields and airports? What about Vnukovo? Now, Maliuk has just come out and said that an attack was being prepared against the Security Service of Ukraine, that an explosion was being planned at the SBU headquarters on Volodymyrska Street in Kyiv. What does this mean? It means that the Ukrainian Security Service, and probably Ukrainian intelligence as well, are preparing major explosions, preparing blasted decision-making centers. I don't know if there will be an explosion at Lubyanka Square. I somewhat doubt that they will actually blow up the Lubyanka itself. But for some reason, it's likely that the general staff or the Zarbata on Frunzenskaya, as well as a number of other strategically important decision-making centers, will be blown up, or there will be some kind of explosion. So we understand that for Kyiv right now, there's a terrible tragedy in Dnipro. For those who don't know, a strike on a passenger train, 14 schools and kindergartens were just hit. Children have been injured, including fatalities. That's why, friends, let's come together, support each other, and leave likes and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Dasha's YouTube channel and to Dmitry Gordon's YouTube channel, where all of this is also being published. But what's very important, Dasha, is that, of course, there will be a response. The special operation Web 2 is ongoing and will continue. I can just feel it with every fiber of my being. I don't even know what with my gills, my nerve, my gut feeling, whatever you call it. I just sense it. Very soon, there will be Web 2. I don't know what exactly will happen. Maybe Putin's plane will catch fire. Maybe there will be an explosion on Putin's plane. Or maybe they'll blow up Shoigu. Or there will be an assassination of Medvedev, who recently started threatening Trump. And Putin, I even heard that Putin beat him up at night. Putin's security guards beat up Medvedev. Well, what did you expect? After making such statements, the drunk one started saying that he almost told Trump he would hand over nuclear missiles to Iran. Trump started threatening him. And apparently Putin just snapped. He had already been shaking for several days in a row. I can see that the special operation will continue. I have told you repeatedly that the Ukrainian armed forces, Ukrainian intelligence, the intelligence community, and Ukrainian security forces in general are creating conditions under which any potential of the Russian army's military technical capabilities is being destroyed in order to block and neutralize Russian offensive actions in various directions. This includes the Donbass, the southeast specifically, and of course the northern direction, where Putin wants to take Sumy, where Putin wants to create the so-called sanitary zone. Although at this point he himself needs to call for orderlies. And if not for him, then for all his associates, Medvedev and all the rest. But the fact that everything has come to a standstill, the fact that Sobyanin is shouting having twice ended up in intensive care and come out after strokes, these are the kinds of news that are absolutely logical and consistent. Ukraine is consistently striking military targets. They've started striking oil refineries again, as you mentioned. But it was Russia that first violated this so-called energy truce just recently. Russia, Kyiv was burning just now, literally the day before yesterday. Kyiv was burning, right? And Kyiv was burning yesterday as well. And every time these were strikes, including on the energy sector, and part of the city was left without power. And not just Kyiv, they're striking Sumy region as well, leaving people without electricity, without water. And Lviv region recently, they hit Lviv and left people without power and water. They're targeting energy facilities. So why the hell shouldn't Ukraine strike these energy facilities in return? It's obvious that any truce has been broken. It's clear that the so-called energy pause has been disrupted, that Trump got busy with other things, started leaking or shifting things around and so on. Well, that's it. This means the board has been flipped and that Ukraine has resumed strikes on oil refineries. And against the backdrop of the worsening economic crisis in Russia, Russia's Minister of Economic Development, Reshetnikov, had the nerve, such audacity, to come out and say right in front of Putin, the country is in recession, everyone should take cover, it's the end for all. I mean, how can someone be so rude as to say such terrifying words in front of the president of Russia? Words incomprehensible to the Russian people. Recession. What kind of un-Russian word is that? He could have just said the economy is done for, we're screwed. That's it for the Russian Federation. And they've calculated it precisely, yes, that by the end of this year, that's it. After that, they can't go on. If oil stays like this, even if Trump is like this, if the sanctions are like this, if Ukraine keeps resisting like this, then that's it. We need to understand ourselves over the past few days. We've seen a whole series of these different news stories, right? The news that comes to us. An attempt on Zelensky's life in Poland was foiled. An attempt on Yermak's brother was foiled. An attempt on Dmytro Gordon was foiled. Why? Because apparently Vladimir Putin has now fully realized that he simply cannot do anything effective about the ongoing situation in Ukraine. He can't take Ukraine by force, so he thinks he needs to eliminate the leadership. And completely stir things up from the inside, create some kind of chaos within Ukraine. He can't do it any other way, and he won't succeed any other way. He realized that he's stuck. He realized that it has all failed. He realized that the summer offensive would bring him nothing except some isolated PR. Well, listen, the Second World War lasted 4 years right here. On this territory, if we're talking about after the attack on the Soviet Union, it went on much longer. Some people count from 39. I personally count from 32 or 33, but that's not important. The Great War lasted 4 years. Right here on this Soviet, post-Soviet territory. And what was the result? Berlin. But here, damn it, what does he have? 3.5 years and really much longer is stuck in this quagmire. Russians are dying in droves. He sends these corpses to Ukraine so he doesn't have to bury them himself or spend money on them. Not a penny, not a kopeck. And as for himself, when it comes down to it, he can't do anything. He can't do anything. That's why what we're seeing now, and we'll see even more of it, Dasha. Vnukovo will be blown up. And the fleet will be blown up again, some other fleet. They're threatening with the Baltic fleet to blow it to hell or even sink their own fleet. They don't care. And they'll have problems in Crimea, and in Siberia has already gone up in flames once. Why do we think it won't happen a second time? Everything always repeats itself. The show just goes on as usual. A good show runs several times. Then it's premiere after premiere after premiere. You know that, right? There can be a good premiere of the same play 3 or 4 times. It's the same here. There will be Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and Web 4. It's not for nothing that Mario came out and said there was an attempt to destroy the main headquarters, the main SBU office in Kyiv. A director, the head of such a service, doesn't just say things like that for no reason. This means that the response is being prepared, and it means that the response will target the most important decision-making centers.
Sasha, what is your opinion on the strikes and the destruction of the Russian Black Sea Fleet's boat? Because it's reported that since the beginning of the war, Russia has already lost 28 ships and boats due to threats. The Russian fleet is withdrawing from occupied Sevastopol. The main forces are now in Novorossiysk, and only submarines remain in Crimea. I would really like us to eliminate all the ships in Novorossiysk and all the submarines, of course.
I'm not laughing because of the boat, Dasha. The boat is, of course, very good. It's a big achievement. In general, any strike and sinking of a boat, the destruction of an aircraft is very different. The destruction of an entire train of tanks, Like what happened recently, right? They wiped out an entire train of Russian tanks. That's a huge achievement. 41 aircraft is enormous. It's a legendary achievement. I'm laughing for another reason. Who commands the boats in Russia? Nikolai Platonovich Patrushev. So we've talked about Putin having a stroke, a heart attack. Sobyanin having 2 strokes. I think after losing another boat, Patrushev is already in intensive care with a stroke or heart attack. Everything just short-circuited for him. Well, damn, they screwed up the Black Sea Fleet. Ukraine doesn't have a fleet. The sea is blockaded. The fleet really had been degrading from the very beginning, ever since independence, just getting worse and worse. Russia tried to carve it up, destroy it. Well, they did everything. Occupied Crimea, did it all, blockaded the Sea of Azov and part of the Black Sea. And then Ukraine went and destroyed the Russian Federation's fleet in the Black Sea. Well, all right. Where is Ukraine and where is the Pacific Ocean? Where is the Desantaya Bay? Well, they marched, they traveled literally tens, hundreds of thousands of meters, kilometers, they made it there and blew up the Russian Pacific Fleet to smithereens. The strategic fleet, damn it, the nuclear triad, my friends. Who is in charge of all this? Now they're shouting that the Baltic Fleet will be sunk. They'll sink it themselves. They'll do everything themselves out of their own stupidity. Narishkin and Patrushev together. But who is to blame for this? Who commands the entire Navy and oversees these matters in Putin's administration? Patrushev. So what? Where are the results? Just sinkings, nothing but sinking. He sent him there out of spite so that he wouldn't try to seize power and push his own son in there. Well, fine, he sent him and that's that. He was supposed to oversee one fleet, another, a third, a fourth, and so on. Well, fine, the cruiser Moskva sank. Let's say that's not Patrushev's fault. Although he was the Secretary of the Security Council at the time. Well, what about now? This is your area of responsibility. And over there it's burning, over there it's sinking, and over there bridges are blowing up. And where are you? I'll tell you where. He's busy with agriculture. He's sending expensive potatoes to Lukashenko. He takes potatoes from Lukashenko's sellers and so on. But the most interesting thing is something else. Patrushev has Roselkhozbank, and so does his son. What is Roselkhozbank? For those who don't know, Roselkhozbank is the main cesspool in Russia through which all the money is laundered, all the foreign currency, because it's not under sanctions. It's not under sanctions. And the Europeans and Americans don't want to put it under sanctions. Well, that's what he's busy doing, laundering money for himself and for Putin. And recently, he also took over Domodedovo. Well, okay, so you say that Domodedovo has a planned carpet. Who has the carpet plan? Where is this Aladdin sitting? Nikolai Platonovich, here. And there's a monkey named Boo running around somewhere, some other monkey of his own. Dima Medvedev, who drunkenly shouts every single day that he has some kind of nuclear warhead for this or that country. He has a nuclear bomb for Ukraine. He has a nuclear bomb for Iran. He has a nuclear bomb for Trump. At this rate, he'll end up with a nuclear bomb falling somewhere in his own backyard. But the problem is something else, Dasha. You see, we joke around like this. But there's another point. Recently, they started talking about a dirty bomb. Did you notice? Putin has started bringing it up. A dirty bomb? Ukraine is supposedly making one. I'm trying, I'll do everything to make sure Ukraine doesn't strike. I hope they won't strike. First of all, Ukraine doesn't have the technology right now to make, at least for Putin, a dirty bomb. Although, to be honest, it's not so much a bunker as a portable toilet I'd like to put him in. But, can you imagine the headline? Putin's portable toilet blown up, the whole Kremlin covered in crap. But Dasha, that's not the point. The point is something else. Look, let me explain. I'm glad to see you smiling. See, I managed to lift your spirits a bit today. I hope I did the same for you too, dear viewers, my friends. So the thing is, they're probably going to escalate the situation. They're probably, in a way, telling all of us, look, we're preparing a provocation involving something nuclear. And what kind of nuclear provocation could they be preparing? Well, they need their own nuclear power plants. But there are others as well. For example, the Zaporizhzhia plant. I'm worried that in the near future, they might try to stage another act of sabotage, a provocation, an arson, an explosion, or a shelling of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in order to use it for blackmail. But if Trump was able to strike, as they believe, not with nuclear weapons, but with weapons deadly to nuclear arsenals bombs, the most powerful and lethal aerial bombs in the world from B-2 bomber plane stand, that means we can do it too. That's where the talk about a dirty bomb comes from. That's the way out. Aha, look, we're mass producing Oreshnik now, and now we're going to use Oreshnik. We're going to strike Kiev or wherever else he decides to hit with his Oreshnik. Will it reach its target or not? We don't know. But why? If Trump is allowed to do it, then I can do it too. That's what Vladimir Putin thinks. You see, he didn't quite finish off Iran, even though he could have, and maybe he should have. If he had finished them off, then Putin would have been done for too. But these guys thought, aha, he didn't finish them off. So if we hit with Oreshnik, or if we launch a dirty bomb, or pull off some other kind of nuclear stunt, well, nothing will happen to us either. Nothing happened to him, so nothing will happen to us either. And why not? That's what Vladimir Putin is thinking to himself. And attention, the most important question, when Donald Trump was negotiating with Lukashenko about Iran, when he was setting all this up, how exactly would Donald Trump react in the event of such provocations from the Kremlin? It's obvious to everyone there, to all those guys in the Kremlin, that yes, events are accelerating, they're pushing everything forward because there are no achievements, nothing to sell, and they need to do something. They need to do something massive, big, something major, so that, aha, everything gets turned upside down. So that Trump understands everything, let's sit down, sign the papers, and stop shooting. Just like with Israel and Iran. They were winning, the Israelis. And then he just said, let's keep everything as it is. I'll destroy 3 factories there. And that'll be enough. But the fact that they moved some of the missiles, and the fact that Putin, I'm already sure, Dasha, that Putin has now made a decision. Last night, even at night, he made the decision to create nuclear weapons in Iran. He needs this. He needs a precedent. He needs another North Korea in the region, but in a different way. You understand? That's the kind of world we live in. A world where they strike once and think that's it, that's enough. But in reality, they could have finished the job. And they didn't finish it. Just like with Putin. Friends, please like this video. In the comments, write a few kind words in support of Ukraine. Let us know where you're watching from, and share your thoughts on this news and the information from Oleksandr Demchenko. And a very important point, Sasha. I just remembered the words of Andriy Yermak, who made a statement that Ukraine has already tested ballistic missiles and is preparing to launch these ballistic missiles into mass production. This is supposed to happen in the near future. He didn't specify exactly when, but he said that ballistic missiles have already undergone successful tests at the front. And considering that Moscow and St. Petersburg, military targets, are practically asking us to attack them. And now Kharbulin also gave an interview to the BBC where he said that Ukraine should, among other things, have nuclear weapons. And Ukraine is capable of mass producing ballistic missiles. What is your general opinion on the prospects of Ukrainian ballistic missiles and attacks on military targets in St. Petersburg and Moscow, and making it so that Russians simply have no peace? I think that ballistic missiles will appear in the near future. I think that Ukraine will launch ballistic missiles at military targets, including in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Leningrad region, and Moscow region. All of this will happen. And of course, this will ruin all of Vladimir Putin's plans. One shouldn't think that Ukraine will engage in terrorism. Unlike Russia, we do not commit acts of terror on their territory. But as for military targets, for military objectives, of which there are many, and which are simply spread out across the vast territory of the Russian Federation, those strikes will happen. Ukraine will soon have those missiles, long-range Neptune and other missiles that will in one way or another replace the shells, the ammunition, the missiles that Germany, the United States, or a number of other countries are not currently providing us in sufficient quantities, or are not giving us permission to use those missiles to strike certain military targets. And this will already be a Ukrainian development. As for nuclear weapons, Dasha, officially Ukraine will not have nuclear weapons. Obviously, we don't want to get ourselves into a situation like Iran's. We understand perfectly well that even at the beginning of Israel's nuclear developments, the Americans imposed sanctions. The Americans opposed it. They restricted, did not transfer aircraft, took back American F-16s, by the way, at that time. All of that happened. That's why we shouldn't get ourselves into that. But officially, it won't happen. Israel also didn't do anything officially. But what if you are truly and genuinely threatened by a dangerous bandit who isn't just holding a mere pistol, but a devastating nuclear pistol? What are you going to do if America is constantly being screwed over and over again repeatedly? If all of Europe has caved in and is just waiting for a call from America, what are you going to do? So, when for many, many years we said that Ukraine would follow the Israeli scenario in one form or another, in one way or another, we were right. All those people who said this did so for one simple reason, there simply isn't any other option. I'm not calling for the creation of anything, I'm just thinking logically. I always think logically. If you're facing a nuclear club, you have to defend yourself with something. So you need to have a small nuclear stone or some other kind of opposing force, something else to counter it, so to speak, a kind of remedy for this disease. That's the first point. Second, it's clear, and I repeat myself, that Israel also officially possesses nothing. It hasn't joined or signed any treaties on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. It doesn't hold any conferences. They've got, 90 or however many missiles sitting there in Dimona. That's enough for them to make sure there's no Iran nearby and that they face no nuclear threats. And so that no one can threaten them with anything. And the Americans have joined Israel not just now, but for the last 10 or 20 years, despite all the aid and so on, for many, many decades. Why did they join? Well, when you have an ally who has everything the newest, the most advanced technology that can conquer the airspace of a country as big as, say, 4 Germanys and Frances combined in just a matter of days. So why wouldn't you join? That's why I think that as soon as Ukraine gets very powerful weapons sent, I'm not talking about nuclear, I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. I've never advocated for that. I actually believe that the most wonderful world is a world without nuclear weapons. One of the biggest mistakes ever was the creation of nuclear weapons. But, as soon as Ukraine acquires truly modern weapons, genuinely formidable forces, and substantial resources, as soon as it becomes unequivocally clear to everyone that Ukraine possesses the inherent capability to independently stand up against any neighboring country, and indeed, not just immediate neighbors, but absolutely anyone, no matter who it is, no matter what powerful country or formidable entity it might burden, we will certainly not encounter any significant problems with our international allies, or with securing essential financial resources, or with crucial funding, or with vital military programs, or with the overall national economy. No one, absolutely everyone, will be compelled to remain silent about issues of corruption and anti-corruption efforts, damn it. And everyone will be talking about how good, beautiful, strong, and developed Ukraine is. Because Ukraine will have everything it needs to, if necessary, rattle its keys, in front of any face, whoever it may be.
Friends, let us know in the comments what you think about Oleksandr Demchenko's latest statement. We work for an audience all over the world, so every like, every comment, and every subscription is priceless. Sash.
And friends, also write how much you enjoy our duet with Dasha, because we work like tractors every single time. Isn't that right, Dasha?
Sasha plus Dasha is our new format, which comes out every week on my channel and on Dimitri Gordon's channel. They used explosives twice, each time with 1,100 kilograms. The head of the SBU on the third strike against the Crimean Bridge. For the first time, the SBU struck the Crimean Bridge in 2022 using a vehicle loaded with 21 tons of explosives in TNT equivalent. And in 2023, it was attacked by 2 SBU Sea Baby combat drones over the water. And the third time underwater, we used 1,100 kilograms of explosives plus another 100 kilograms, that is twice 1,100 kilograms on the key supports of the illegal structure, stated SBU head Mali. Sasha, so when is the Crimean Bridge finally going to collapse? The main news, of course, will be its destruction.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Well, yes, eventually it will collapse no matter what. We fully understand that anything installed illegally by the occupying authorities will sooner or later collapse. I have a question. Well, when you said that, do you know why I smile? Just having some understanding of Maliuk psychology, I can just imagine what's going on in his head. He's probably sitting there, and when they show him these numbers, right? Like 100 and something, what was it? 1,100, or how much was it?
Yeah, 1,100 kilograms plus another 1,100 kilograms.
So he adds it up to 1,200. Damn, it wasn't enough. Next time it'll probably be 5,000 or 10,000. So basically, he's already gathering explosives. What you're doing, the way you're counting it, it needs to be explained in very simple terms. Vasily Maliuk is collecting new explosives for the Crimean Bridge. He wants to do it for the 4th time. Apparently, he has some kind of fetish, some sort of personal thing, that he wants to destroy the Crimean Bridge. He wants to go down in history as the one who destroyed the Crimean Bridge. And I think he's preparing not only himself for this, but all of Ukraine and the Russian Federation along with Putin. By the way, Dasha, I actually think that in Russia they are very afraid of Mariupol. Very much so. I think Putin is afraid of Mariupol. I think his whole gang is afraid of Mariupol. It seems to me they even have some kind of anti-Mariupol keychain, some anti-Mariupol deodorants, Everything, anything you can imagine, they already have. By the way, I think we should already be sending them some merch, something a little explosive, with images of Vasil Vasilovich Mariupol, but they are terribly afraid. And he is creative, You have to give him credit. He's creative. One moment he's stuffing those trucks, then he's sending out scooters, then he's looking for explosives, some kind of sea baby or whatever, then he's figuring out which explosives would blow up the Crimean Bridge better, and so on. They sit there thinking, damn, he could stuff the Kremlin with those drones and fill gum with those drones too. And now probably they're checking Ostankino and Solovyov's place every single time. Maybe there's already a drone from Mariupol hidden somewhere inside Solovyov. No one knows, you see? They're terribly afraid. And it's very obvious from how intensely and constantly they react to Mariupol's statement. And at Mariupol and at Budanov too, by the way, and at all of them, at our entire intelligence community and our security forces. They're extremely afraid no matter what. And these strikes on Kyiv, on Dnipro, that terrible strike on those children of ours, yes, and there were strikes on Kharkiv too. This is out of helplessness. He can't do anything. He can't conquer. He can't subdue. He wants capitulation. He craves it. But there is no capitulation. He wants to remove Zelensky. He wants the destruction of Ukraine and Ukrainians, and he can't achieve it in any way. He's already trying everything, and nothing is working. And his biggest problem is that Putin has surrounded himself with people who are, to some extent, professionally unfit. People who can't oversee the areas to which he has appointed them. Yes, they can steal, like Sarikov, Shoigu, or like Timur Ivanov, who is now facing 14 and a half years. But they can't do anything else. Timur Ivanov was put in charge of rebuilding Crimea and Mariupol. Where are Crimea and Mariupol now? All that's left is ruin and devastation. But he stole the money and they're not capable of anything else. Then Chemezov from Rostek, Putin's buddy, a KGB guy, comes in and says, we don't have enough money, damn it, we can't do anything. The Pantsir S-1, we've got 48 of those missiles there already. Send the Pantsir S-1 to Iran, it didn't work. Damn it, the Pantsir S-1. You see? They're all butterfingers over there. And he understands this perfectly well.
Sasha, we absolutely have to discuss the sabotage operations. These are trains loaded with military equipment, with fuel. We remember how a train carrying military equipment was attacked dozens of tanks and other military hardware. And just in the last couple of days, information has come out that the GUR, the main intelligence directorate, also eliminated, destroyed, blew up trains on the occupied territory of Ukraine in the south, carrying fuel and military equipment. That's also a successful operation after all. It would be great to see something like that happen on Russian territory as well. What do you think?
And why is this important? Besides the fact that we're stating and restating that this is a successful operation, why is it important? Because the fuel was destroyed and the equipment came to a halt. So they arrived ready to fight, ready to push forward, ready to kill, right? But they got stuck. And now they're an easy target for Ukrainian drones, for Ukrainian missiles, artillery, mortars, and so on and so forth. The equipment stopped moving. Can you launch conduct offensive operations with equipment that's come to a halt? Remember, February, March of 2022. Did they get bogged down in the swamps? They got bogged down. The fuel didn't arrive on time. There was no fuel. They were marching, carrying their dress uniforms in their backpacks, planning to parade through Kyiv. They were coming from everywhere. Sumy region, they pushed through there, tried to go around somewhere near Zhytomyr, Chernihiv, Kyiv. They were pushing from all directions. Well, they got bogged down. And where are they all now? Their parade is either there or more precisely in hell at a parade. That's why this is important, Dasha. It's important because, and I keep repeating this, if we're being serious, I've said it many times and I keep saying it. Right now, Putin's summer offensive is being disrupted and they're hitting the rear. They're hitting fuel, they're hitting oil refineries, they're hitting factories and plants, they're hitting drone equipment there, they're hitting arsenals, they're hitting aircraft, they're hitting railways. Not the FSB like the one that was destroyed in Bryansk region, but they're hitting other railway lines of military significance. destroying entire freight trains with tanks. All of this is to disrupt the summer offensive. And notice there are results. We have started to recapture settlements one by one in the Sumy region already, gradually.
Mar Filatov made an official statement. In Dnipro, 19 schools, 10 kindergartens, a vocational training center, a music school, and a medical facility were damaged. I want to say that with Trump's rise to power, the situation with missile and drone attacks has worsened by more than 50%. All the military analysts have written about this. In other words, Trump is now simply absolute evil, a horror that he has brought into the world. Essentially, Trump has given Putin his blessing for permanent missile strikes and drone attacks on the territory of our country. I just read that analysts are saying Russia will soon be launching 500, 600 drones. They are capable of this and they will do it. Sasha, what should we do? Because Trump simply doesn't care about Ukraine. He gives his blessing to the attacks. He doesn't care at all. He is absolutely impotent when it comes to Putin.
Dasha, I don't have any cure. I don't have any pill to choose from, whether to take the blue one or the red one. I don't have any recipe for this. Look, I only know one thing. I suspect, or rather I have a hypothesis, that in fact the decision to stop the war against Iran was made, at least in part, in Moscow. When the Iranian foreign minister arrived in Moscow late at night and spoke with Putin, Putin didn't just betray him. He helped Trump reach an agreement and renegotiate. It wasn't Qatar negotiating, it was Putin. And Trump knows this perfectly well. And it seems to me that right now a very difficult and turbulent situation is beginning for all of us. Putin will escalate, amplify, and accelerate events, while Trump will turn a blind eye because Putin helped him with Iran. I don't know if there was an exchange, if there was a deal, maybe there was nothing at all. I don't want to lie. I don't want to exaggerate or overstate things, but it seems to me that Putin was involved. Now, negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will resume soon. And we'll see from these negotiations, has Putin become more willing to make concessions after the events in Iran? Does he want to negotiate or not? What will Trump's reaction be? Will he allow Putin to strike? You've noticed, haven't you, that there has been no reaction from Trump to the recent strikes on Kyiv, but there was a reaction in the past. Well, fine, now Iran is over. He has peace. Deal, indeed. He has already achieved everything. Or rather, he hasn't achieved the damn thing. He handed victory to a terrorist country, which will still carry out attacks in Washington. I have no doubt about it. I don't know if there will be an attack near the White House, but in Washington, in New York, they will carry them out. They always do, these Iranian terrorist attacks. This country is a terrorist, a sponsor of terrorism. But he gave them victory. Or, a partial victory, or rather, definitely not a defeat. Even though this country this regime, more precisely, could already be lying in ruins and shreds. Vladimir Putin got involved, and we'll see in the near future what Donald Trump will do. And it depends on what he does. By analyzing what he does, we'll understand whether there was a deal with Putin regarding Iran or not. Did Putin sell his services? And what did he exchange his services for with Donald Trump?
Friends, Sasha and I are working for you, so every like, every comment, and every subscription is priceless. That's why we ask you to stay engaged. Let us know where you're watching us from and what you think about this topic. A few warm words in support of the armed forces of Ukraine. At the end of every stream, I always ask Sasha for an optimistic forecast. What do you think will happen in the near future? Sasha, please share your optimism, maybe give our audience some hope, which is very important.
Ukraine will respond. Expect a response in the near future. I don't know from Mumaluk, Budanov, but expect a response from Ukraine. It's obvious that we will see more than one special operation in Russia in the coming days and weeks. It wasn't for nothing that Malyuk came out and said they tried to do something in Kyiv. And all these victims in Kyiv, in Dnipro, in Kharkiv, in Odessa, and in many other places in Ukraine, in Sumy, especially in many other Ukrainian regions, in cities, for all of them, there will be accountability for all of it, for this plan. It seems to me that despite Europe's toothlessness, despite this somewhat toothless NATO summit, yes, despite these wordings, despite Trump, Ukraine, no matter what, will receive a certain amount of aid and will be able to stand up to Putin. And Putin's offensive, I believe in that. There is no certainty, but I believe in it. And I want you to believe in it too, my friend. Because the last thing that could break us for Putin is our hope for something better, for a good life without Putin. So I am 100% sure that this will come true, that Putin's summer offensive will stall. And I am certain that after it stalls, very dark days will come for Putin. Because nothing cancels out, not just karma, but neither the laws of economics, nor the laws of the Almighty, nor the laws by which humanity lives. That's why I am sure that Vladimir Putin will be punished. But before he's punished, he will punish everyone around. I don't know what position he'll put whom in, but he already has a line formed by the war, Medvedev, Shoigu, and then the rest according to the list. So expect some very loud news from Russia, both literally and figuratively.
Our format Dasha plus Sasha, Sasha plus Dasha, call it whatever you like, works just for you. Write a few kind words about the format. What do you think about it? Top analyst Oleksandr Demchenko. Sasha, thank you very much and see you soon.
Until next time. Bye.